Okay, so setting up your file for trade sketching, you need to click on the Illustrator icon, that's that black and orange icon, double click on it, File New, up the top here, or Command N, and in the new document window, normally what I choose is print because most of the time our image will be printed, or you could choose web if it's going to be uploaded to a web document. So I'll just click on print, size A4, name your file, we'll say lesson 3, and all of these things are normally don't need changing in the panel here, but I normally like to work with centimetres rather than points, so click on centimetres and then click create, and that creates your new document. Normally when you open your document, the desktop, the computer would have been used by someone else unless it's yourself, so the desktop can be quite messy, so you want to go to Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials Classic, and what that does is it puts all your panels over here on the right back in line, or shows them, sometimes they're missing, and all your tools over here on the right. If you want to collapse your tools, you can click on this little double arrow icon and that will put them side by side. Sometimes it's easier to work like that. If you want to move around the desktop, then you hold down your space bar and you can move your artboard. It's called an artboard. So, setting up your file, what I would first do is bring out the panels. So you have your stroke panel, which indicates your width of the line that you're making. You need your transparency panel if you're using a scanned image or a photo that you might be tracing over. And you need your layers because you need to lock certain layers when you're working so that they don't all, things don't move around. Click on the double arrow to expand the panel. So if you join them all together by, pulling them out and pushing them together and then click on the double arrow, you don't have to do them separately. So that's a time-saving device. Everything's about time-saving in digital work. And over here in our tools, we use our black selection tool, our white selection tool. Sometimes we want to use the group selection tool. That's hidden underneath the white selection tool or the direct selection tool. Any tool with a little arrow at the base of it means that there's other tools. We also have all our pen tools. Sometimes it can be a good idea to open up that panel. Open up the pen tool panel by clicking on that little arrow. Sometimes it's really difficult to get it to open. Once they're all up, you can slide over to the black handle over here. Click on that and that will separate the panel and keep all the tools together like that. We often use the curvature tool. That's used for when you draw a straight line and you need to curve it. Type tool for typing, line tool. Normally we just use the pen tool, but some people like the line tool. Shape tool is good for things like hems, or waistbands. You might want to use the rectangle or something like a hem. You might want to use the ellipse. Brush we don't really use now. In here, the shaper tool, click on the arrow and click on the join tool. A join tool is a fantastic tool for joining two lines together. When we draw, we try and make the line stay joined, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So if you need to rejoin the lines, if you use the join tool, you'll only end up with 1 point rather than 2 using other methods. The rubber we don't really use. We use the scissors tool, which is C on the keypad. So all the tools have a shortcut and it will show you what the shortcut is on the right hand side here. So scissors tool, rotate tool, tend to use the reflect tool more than the rotate tool, but again we would probably use the keypad, but you can click on that. All these other tools, we do use them, but just for the beginning of trade sketching, we'll probably ignore all those until we need them. The hand tool is easiest used, like I said, by holding down the space bar, and then you can sort of pull your image around. Our colours, we always have no colour when we're drawing, so you can either click on the little icon with the red line running through it or press the / key. So it's just drawing with black line, that way you can see what you're doing, still see the template. The other thing that is very handy, the zoom tool. So this is the zoom tool. If you just press Z on the keypad, and you click and drag to make things bigger or smaller. Your other option is to hold down Command and press the plus or the minus key on the keypad. So, next thing, if you want everything to just fit on screen, it's Command 0, not O, 0. So what I'll do is show you View. So we set up a few things in View. This also, View tells you all the shortcuts for things like zooming in and zooming out. Show print tiling. What that is your printer, this is set up as defined by printer, so it's not doing A4. So I would change that in my settings, but it means that anything beyond that edge won't get printed. So that's handy if you are printing things to know that that's there. Rulers are very important, so we always say show rulers, and they appear on the top and the side, and the way you use them is you just drag them out. So, and you can see them like that. The other thing is guides. You can lock your guides or hide your guides, which is things like the ruler. Smart Guides is always on, and that helps you when you're drawing. Perspective grid. A lot of people accidentally click on this when they first start. I'll just show you what happens. Nothing. View perspective grid. Show grid. And it's pretty terrifying. You can't do a thing with it. Can't get rid of it. The only way you can get rid of it is to go View, Perspective Grid, Hide Grid. Okay, there we go. Phew. View Snap to Point. This is another thing that helps you draw. There's also things like Show Grid. This is if you like to use a grid when you're drawing. Helps you sort of free draw sometimes. But generally I would hide the grid. Now, what we need to do is place our template figure. I'm just going to hide that page tiling as well. Hide print tiling. So, File, Place. So we always place our template figure first. So it'll be probably in your Documents folder. I haven't set it up yet, but normally I put it in the Documents folder. I actually have it somewhere, but I don't know where it is now, so I'm just going to type in template and hopefully it'll show up. Female template. Okay, well I know where it is. I'm going to go and hunt it down. Cat 3. Female Trade 2020. Now, the way you place it in your file is you just see how you can sort of see the icon attached to the cursor. You just click in that top left-hand corner and that puts it in the right place in the file. Over here in your layers, you want to lock that layer. So you just click in the box next to the eye and you want to create a new layer. And the new layer will either be your drawing layer or you might place images on this layer to trace over. I'll show you how to do that. So you go File, Place, Desktop. Let's see if I've got My Design. It's My Design. Double click on the image, click, So that's placed it in the document. What happens with bitmap, so anything that's a photograph is called a bitmap image, is that it's a separate file that's placed in an Illustrator document, which is a drawing program. You need to lock that file to the Illustrator program file. So you have to go Window, Links, and this is where you embed the image. And this icon comes up, and that means that the image is now locked to that file. You can of course delete it by clicking on the link and go unembed. The next thing you would need to do is go to your transparency layer panel and click on the arrow and reduce the transparency down to about 50%. And then you get your black selection tool. So the black selection tool selects the whole object, and you need to hold down Shift to constrain the proportions. So that doesn't really look right, does it? So sometimes, you know, even though technically it is the right size because it's just a photograph, you might want to alter it slightly. So for instance, you want to lengthen it, you wouldn't hold down Shift, so you would just click and drag to change the proportion of the image. So that's the length that I wanted. And then you would lock that layer and you would make a new layer for drawing on. If you want to name the layers, you can double click on the layer name and write draw, and this is normally the only layer that you need in the end. So you might even copy this image onto another document. Normally trade sketches are used in various documents. They could be in a spec sheet, which has all the measurements on it for the designer or the pattern maker or the machinist, anybody involved in production. Or it could be used in a sheet where it shows different colour variations or different fabrics, style numbers, so a design sheet. So what's happened here is I want to move my ruler and I can't. Normally it will lock after a certain amount of time. So if that happens, you go up to View and you come down to your Guides and you go, unlock guides, it's not locked. Anyway, I'll just drag out another ruler and place that over the centre line of the image. The reason we do this is we use this ruler to actually copy reflect half of our drawing. So I know why I can't unlock it, it's because it's on this layer. So if I unlock layer 2 and select it and delete it, no, maybe it's on layer 1. Layer 1 is, no, anyway, let's not worry about that. We'll just lock those two layers, make sure that your drawing layer is unlocked. This is sometimes if you've selected the ruler to unlock it or move it or something like that, you'll find that you get back to your colour boxes and there's nothing in either of them. So if you want to add a black fill, you click on the fill box to bring it to the front, or press X on the keypad, and over here your colour, because you've clicked on colour, the colour box will come up and you can click on black just to fill that with black. Remember, no fill in the fill box. So zoom in, always zoom in to start your drawing. So pen tool,